Well, hello. Are you ready for another Choose Your Own Adventure style book? Today, we're going to be reading The Oregon Trail, Alone in the Wild. But let's head out to the woods so we get a right taste of what it's like going on the Oregon Trail. Come on.
The Oregon Trail, Alone in the Wild, with more than 20 possible endings.
Let's begin our adventure. Yeehaw! You have more than 1,000 miles until you reach Oregon City, or at least that's what you think. Your wagon train captain, Buck Sanders, lost your only map about a month ago when he discarded supplies from the wagon to lighten their load. Since Buck lost the map, you've all been relying on the kindness of strangers, trail guides, and the position of the sun to find your way west. The oxen in your 10 wagon train are getting more exhausted by the minute on the trail, lined with cast iron skillets and extra weapon parts. Luckily, you've stayed calm and stuck to the trail. Today, your wagon is corralled by a little wind river. Clear skies and sunshine have you and your wagon train in great spirits. Mama yells over to you. "We're going to ford the river soon. Let's caulk our wagon before sundown." "Annie," Paul calls to Mama, "don't work our sweet child too hard. I'll need help preparing our meal soon." Well, Buck Sanders approaches your wagon. His overgrown handlebar mustache covers his mouth. "I see the Winters finally is doing especially well today. I'm going round and telling folks that we will camp here tonight. Get some rest and get moving first thing in the morning. And, please keep an eye on that dog of yours. He's getting into other people's business. Snap!" You whistle to your lovable dog. "Here, boy." "Buck," Mama's face screws up. "The light is clear and the weather's great. Let's cross the Little Wind River today. We're working hard to get all the wagons caulked, and we still have 5 hours of sunlight left in the day." "Annie," Buck smiles and tugs on his mustache. "The other folks are exhausted. Not as strong as y'all three, I guess." Buck whistles to the larger wagon train. "Let's get these wagons circled up." As Buck walks away, Mama takes Pa aside. "John, I knew we couldn't trust Buck as a wagon train captain. He has no experience, and I can't believe he lost the map. The only map we had." Pa calms Mama down. "There's nothing we can do now, Annie, save for peeling off from the group, which is not smart or safe. Let's just get our chores done and rest up for tomorrow so we're fresh for the river crossing." Mama gives him a hug, and then you both help Pa finish making dinner. A ration of bacon and steamed dandelions with fresh venison. You're thankful Pa hunted a deer last night. Supplies are running lower than predicted, so your family is measuring out food. It's got to last for the rest of your trip. Stopping at general stores and trading posts are viable options, but not always available, and you don't have a lot of money with you. Plus, with an unreliable wagon train captain and no map, who knows if you'll pass any of the trading posts or forts? You've all worked hard to gather a lot of berries and various edible plants along the way, while other folk in your wagon train have been more successful at hunting deer and rabbits. They've shared with you so far, but there's no guarantee that their generosity will continue. Rest up. The next leg of the journey is a calamity. You wake to a loud whistle and a crack of thunder. Buck Sanders is running around your corral circle in a frenzy. We gotta go now, before the river swells too high. You hear? In the middle of the night, Buck? Pa protests. It's not even midnight. The fire embers are still smoldering from when I put it out 2 hours ago. Now is the time, Buck yells as the sky starts to spit. The clouds are rolling in against the moon. We gotta move. Your family could stay behind, but without a map and the protection of a wagon train, you'd have no chance. You follow everyone and roll into the dark. Your wagon is the last to launch into the river. It floats, you tell Mama. She smiles by the lantern light, proud of your good work. Snap sits next to her, anxiously whimpering. Lightning strikes. Torrential rain pours out of the sky and floods the river. Wild rapids develop over rocks. Your wagon isn't built for this. You paddle faster with handmade oars you've carved from broken tree branches. You knew they'd come in handy. When you're halfway across the river, fear fills Mama's face. Then it happens. In a flash, you are tossed into the rushing black water. Overboard, she screams to Pa, but he's almost across the river leading the oxen. Ice cold water shocks you. It fills your mouth and you bob up and down. Swimming against the powerful river current is nearly impossible in your drenched, heavy clothes. Your arm muscles tire against the force of the water. You muster up as much strength as you can and grab a wagon wheel spoke. But your grip weakens. You scream to Mama as she holds her hand out. But just as you reach toward her, the river water washes over you. Snap yells and falls into the careening waves. The current is stronger than your grip on the wagon wheel. It takes you under. You wake, coughing up water on the riverbank. You look around. The sun is peeking through the trees in the west. You see no wagons, no animals, no Snap. No one is around you. No Mama, no Pa. You're alone. You have no support and no food, and you are lost. You were half awake when your family got the call to ford the river, with only seconds to throw on your clothes and slip a few things into your pockets. How far down the river did the water carry you? There was no one around for miles and miles. There's no time to waste. You'll have to use your survival skills to find your wagon train as soon as possible. Your head pounds. Thunder rumbles in the gray clouds. As you slowly stand up, dirt and leaves fall off your wet clothes. Panic takes over you for a split second, but panicking isn't an option. You wipe your face and look around. No family, no wagons, no oxen, no one and nothing in sight. Judging by the light, it's mid to late afternoon, though it's hard to tell with the overcast weather. You sit down on a flat rock and try to piece together what happened. The storm, Mama, the river. It all comes back to you. You remember you're close to South Pass, Wyoming, the easiest way to cross through the treacherous Rocky Mountains. Then you remember Snap. You hope everyone made it out of the river. Mama! You put your hands to your mouth. Snap! Mama! Pa! Where are you? Can anybody hear me? Your hoarse voice is weak. In the distance, lightning charges the sky. Another storm. You shiver and wrap your arms around yourself. Your hair and clothes are still damp. You need to find dry clothes and your family. Hello? Hello? Can anyone hear me? You hear the echo of your own voice. No response. You swallow. Your throat is sore. Stay calm. You hope camp is close. Your stomach grumbles. You spot a few dandelions nearby. You know from listening to one of your wagon train guides that in the most dire of circumstances, the flowers can be eaten. You pick several dandelions and stuff them into your mouth. They're nutty and bitter in flavor and taste better than you expected. You have to keep moving. You start walking, calling for Mama, for Snap, every few minutes. You follow the rushing river upstream, stepping through bushes. The mud pushes through your soaked boots, making every step heavier and heavier. You hope you're going the right way. After you'd followed the river for an hour or two, nothing looks familiar. A loud boom of thunder startles you. You bite your lip and brace yourself. If you can't find your wagon train, you'll have to start looking for shelter. It's getting dark. Your hope wanes, but then you see something familiar. An oddly shaped rock in the distance. Lizard Head Peak. It was your wagon train's North Star on the trek here. You recognize the surrounding area. Your spirits lift, and despite your exhausted body, you pick up your feet and break into a slow jog. You're so close, you have a good feeling. Pa, Mama, Snap, I'm here, I'm all right. Faster and faster, you weave your way through the brush along the riverbank and down into the nook where your wagon train had set up camp before crossing the river. You finally push through a thick grove of trees, step out into the clearing, and look to the other side of the river. No one. Nothing. No evidence of your wagon train or your family. They're gone. You blink, not believing your eyes. In a daze, you stumble, staring at the blackened circle of rocks and ash that was once your campfire. You scan the horizon, your heart pounding rapidly. You can't even find footprints or wheel ruts in the mud. The heavy rains have washed away any trace of your wagon train. You feel a new rush of panic. You have no idea if your family made it across the wild river, or if they too were swept down the river like you. An owl hoots nearby, and you jump. Darkness settles in. Should you continue to search for your wagon train, or set up your own camp and make fire? To search for your wagon train, turn to page 115. To make a fire, turn to page 138. Well now, sounds like a storm's coming, night's falling in, so using your wits, I'd think making a fire would be your best option. Be kind of silly looking for your wagon train in the dark and in a thunderstorm with no light and no shelter. Let's turn to page 138. Let's get a fire going. And you know what? I'm pretty impressed we know how to make a fire. Okay. Building a fire is the most important thing to do right now. It's getting dark very quickly, and there's no immediate way to track your wagon train down. The temperature's dropping, and you need to light a fire to keep yourself warm. It will also ward off any predators. You shiver at the thought of what lurks in those hills: burly bears, slinking wildcats, white-fanged wolves, poisonous snakes, and gigantic moose. The storm is passing. Staying in the camp clearing without a wagon corral for protection is not a good idea. You move to higher ground. You weave your way back up into the craggy hills until you find yourself in a small gully surrounded by tall trees and rocks. You settle into a nook in between several thick pines. You brush aside wet leaves and damp twigs to get to the dirt beneath and place several stones in a small circle. As you begin hunting for dry twigs to use as tinder, you realize that making a fire will be more difficult than you imagined. You've never actually started a fire before. Not on your own, anyway. Ma or Pa always helped you get the spark going. You pat one of your pockets. Your matches are still there. You thought they'd be floating at the bottom of the river with the catfish. Digging into your pockets, you feel your small knife. This'll be very helpful in the future. With the land and the trees still damp from the heavy storm, it takes you a long time to find a partially dry kindling. When you finally have a small bundle in your arms, you set it down in the middle of your rocky nook. Your stomach grumbles. You crave the fatty bacon, dried meat, and coffee from your family's wagon. You can already hear Mama laughing at Pa's silly jokes and Snap barking after a nearby jackrabbit. At this point, you'd even be happy to see your aimless wagon train captain, Buck. You pull out your matchbox and stare down in horror. It popped open while you were carried away by the river. The few matches you have left are soaked through, except for one partially dry match. You'll have to find another way to make a fire, and you've never made one with steel and flint before. You can use your small knife as steel, but you can't find any flintstone. You keep the wet matches just in case. Maybe you can use them when they dry out. Then you remember a trick one of your wagon train folk used when they had trouble getting the campfire started with wet tinder. You rush over to a small grove of pine trees and take out your knife. You notch a hole until slowly but surely you see resin, a thick sap, seeping out. It's highly flammable. This trick is perfect for a time like this. In your circle of stones, you've laid out the only dry moss you could find and small kindling wood. You coat the end of a long stick in the resin and try your luck on the driest match you have. When you strike the match, the spark ignites the resin and it flares to life. You set it among the twigs and gently blow to help start a flame while you add slightly larger sticks. In a few minutes, you've got a small but steady fire going. Relieved, you start to warm from the heat. Your stomach's growl interrupts your brief moment of peace. It's been at least a few days since you ate anything. Should you go look for food nearby or construct a shelter for the night? To make a shelter, turn to page 76. Or to find food, turn to page 44. Now, if I remember correctly, your mom and pa taught you the most important thing is to stay dry and warm. And food, shoot, you could go days, weeks even, without food. Food can wait. We're going to get a shelter going. Let's turn to page 76. Finding shelter is the most important thing right now. Although your survival skills are basic, you remind yourself that you just traveled 1,000 miles on foot. This gives you a boost of confidence. Your body can wait at least a few more hours to find food. It's almost dark out, so building a lean-to is critical to surviving the night. It'll keep you and your fire protected from the rain. You pick a good spot surrounded by tall pines to build a temporary shelter. You pick the sturdiest trees near the fire and start searching for long, thick branches to prop up against the trunk. About a half an hour later, you have enough branches. You place them one by one against the windward side of the tree so that your shelter and fire won't get destroyed by the mountain gusts. You weave the smaller branches together and lock them into place. You plaster piles of dirt you dug up from the forest floor and wet leaves onto the walls to keep the heat in. Inside, You pile up a small mattress of leaves, moss, and twigs to protect yourself from the cold ground. Thunder rumbles overhead and rain starts falling, not long after you complete your lean-to. You huddle inside and cover yourself with leaves. Your stomach growls louder and louder, but you know you made the right decision. You'll survive the night and forage for food in the morning. Exhausted and bone-weary, you place a log on your fire, curl up in your shelter, and fall into a deep sleep. When you wake up the next morning, the storm clouds and rain have given way to a fresh, clear sunrise. All that's left of your fire is black carbon and ash. With your hunger more immediate than ever, you grab a walking stick from your lean-to and go off in search of more berries and flowers to eat. You come upon some bushes filled with red waxy berries, wax currants. They're bitter and tangy on your tongue, but you eat as many as you can. As you continue to clean the bushes of their berries, you see a small lake nearby. Birds and several squirrels are drinking from it. You're parched, but you shouldn't drink water that's been sitting stagnant and still. You hear water flowing as you walk closer to the lake. A river! It might be the Little Wind River, but you are too disoriented to know for sure. It's much tamer now that the storm has passed. You walk down to the bank, drink your fill, and wash your face. You've found a section that is very narrow with stones protruding from the water. If only your wagon train had come this way. You hush the thought and carefully step onto the stones to cross the river. There's no time to waste. You need to keep moving, even if being lost in these mountains feels hopeless. You have no idea where your wagon train is at this point. You've got to get back to the Oregon Trail. You head northwest. With the sun leaning to one side of the morning sky, you know to move in the opposite direction. You hope you'll catch up with your wagon train in the mountains. Traveling alone, you don't need to worry about hauling heavy wagons and teams of tired oxen. You're moving at a quicker pace. With a newfound determination, you take one last drink from the river and gather 2 good handfuls of wax currants. You roll them up in aspen leaves and put them in your pockets. You start off on your journey again. You've walked for several hours, stopping whenever you see berries or currants. Out of the blue, you hear a bone-chilling howl nearby. It sounds like your dog Snap. Should you investigate further or avoid it? Well now, it might be worth taking a peek to see if that's your dog Snap. To investigate the howl, turn to page 99. To avoid the noise, turn to page 128. It might be a bit foolish, but oh boy, you just couldn't bear the thought of leaving old Snap behind. You gotta take a look. Let's turn to page 99. You investigate the howl. The whimpering echoes through the trees send a shiver down your spine. It could be an injured wolf, or it could be Snap. The 2 of you got separated days ago. Maybe he was swept down the river too. Maybe he's hurt. You go and look carefully. You take your small knife out of your pocket just in case. Gently pushing through the brush, you back up against a large pine tree. Whimpers and sounds of scuffling nearby make you hesitate. You start to second-guess your decision. You hold your knife tightly and peer around the tree. You gasp when you see the creature struggling in the thorny thicket. Snap! Your beloved dog looks up at the sound of your voice and barks happily. You rush forward, ignoring the thorns scratching at your clothing and arms, and kneeling to hug Snap. He whimpers and covers your face with licks. I've never been so happy to see you. Tears prick your eyes. I'm so glad I found you. You're not alone anymore. You don't recall ever feeling such elation or relief in your life. Don't worry. You try to calm him down. I'll get you out of this. You gently unwind the vines from around his ear and carefully pull out several thorns. He whimpers but doesn't move. We need to find you water. Come on, boy, let's go. Even though Snap's heavy, you pick him up and set him down once you're safely out of the thicket. You find a tiny brook running through the rocky forest drain. You wash his torn ear, tear off a strip of your sleeve, and bandage it. After eating the last of your wax currants and sipping water from the brook, you're still so hungry. Snap licks his own chops. Time to hunt. You've hunted rabbits and prairie dogs with Snap before. He's got a keen sense of smell when chasing down quick jackrabbits. You follow Snap as he trots through the rocky terrain, his nose to the ground. Then he lifts his head, his nose and floppy ears twitching. A flash of gray darts across the forest floor. He bolts. You want to race after him, but your legs are tired. You trust Snap. He's a determined hunter, and in the end, the rabbit is just too slow for him. You build a fire using tree resin and one of your matches after gathering kindling and small sticks. You hang the rabbit hide out to dry to use as a water skin. Your canteen is lost in the river somewhere. After a short rest, it's time to travel on. You extinguish the flames. The last thing you want to do is start a forest fire. You continue on your journey. As the afternoon wears on, you realize that you've passed the same oddly shaped tree twice now. You've been walking in circles. Should you hike to higher ground to see where you are, or start following the nearby brook downstream to lower ground? To get to higher ground, turn to page 24. To get to lower ground, turn to page 111. Getting to higher ground might be helpful for looking about, but that also might be backtracking. I think we're going to follow the stream downhill to lower ground. Let's turn to page 111. You are disoriented in these mountains. Everything is starting to look the same. You move to lower ground. Following the river is the best choice. You hope it'll lead to a bigger water source and maybe to a wagon train corral. You walk by short waterfalls and past rocky boulders with patches of moss and wildflowers. You take some to eat later. You also come across thick patches of sagebrush, wonderful rich-smelling plants that are safe to eat. You fill your pockets. The sage has such a pleasant aroma. You pause to make sure that you're not backtracking, and sure enough, you see the sun's location in the sky and are certain you are headed west. You hope that eventually this river will lead you out of the woods and to the mouth of the Snake River, an Oregon Trail landmark. From there, you can get to Fort Hall. You still have hopes that your family is waiting for you there. That encouraging thought puts an extra spring in your step as you descend the mountain slope. Snap catches a small rabbit, which you roast over a fire. After this, you only have one match left. You've been notching holes in pine trees for their resin to fuel the fires, but you're not sure what to do without the spark of a match. You'll have to teach yourself how to use flint and steel. You wish you'd paid closer attention to Mama when she got the campfire going. You know next to nothing about surviving in the wild. The next day, when you wake up, Snap is missing. You frantically call for him, but after about an hour, he hasn't returned. You keep walking, shouting and shouting. Finally, he comes back through the bushes. You nearly sob with relief. Don't do that again. You pat his head. He licks your hand. As you keep following the river, Snap lets out a sudden yelp. You peer around a pine tree, a spot of tan with splashes of color amid the shadows of the forest. It's a girl. She looks about your age. Her 2 long braids hang down her shoulders over a beaded buckskin dress. It looks so comfortable and light compared to your thick, dirty clothes. A large pack sits at her feet, and a small fire crackles nearby. She's facing away from you, digging at the ground. You watch as she continues to poke around pieces of driftwood near the bank of the river with a pointed stick. She reaches down and pulls out something, a tree root. She pauses and glances back in your direction. You duck behind a tree. You're about to step out from hiding to say hello, but you catch yourself. Maybe that's not the right thing to do. Your short time alone in the mountains had made you especially cautious. Snap noses you with a whimper. You hush him and gently push him back. You need to be cautious. You haven't spoken to another human being in days. What if she can help you? What if she's friendly? This could be your only chance at surviving. But what if she doesn't want to be bothered? Should you reveal yourself or stay hiding? To reveal yourself, turn to page 46. To stay hiding, turn to page 40. Well, we said it ourselves. We don't know much about surviving in the woods. We got by this far. I think that's because we had some matches. I think the best thing for us to do is to go say hello. Let's turn to page 46. You decide to reveal yourself. As much as you're afraid of strangers, you dread being alone more. Before you can move out from behind the trees, the girl turns in your direction. You can come out. I know you're there. Your cheeks grow hot. She never looked up once. How did she know you were standing there? So much for your tracking skills. You emerge from the trees and stand there awkwardly. Hello. You fumble with your hands. No, I'm sorry. I just wasn't sure if it was safe. I've been traveling alone for some time now. The girl doesn't respond. She continues to dig along the rocky shore of the river near pieces of driftwood. How'd you know I was there? You're pretty loud, she smiles. But, really? The girl glances over her shoulder. Really? You've got a heavy footstep. You think you were watching me? No. I've been following you for 2 days now. Snap bounds out into the clearing and licks the girl, his tail wagging wildly. She smiles and puts her hand out for him to smell her scent before she pets him. This girl seems nice, even if she's been tracking you for the past few days. Why were you following me? I'm traveling alone too. Before you found me, did you happen to come upon a wagon train? For a second, you fill with hope. There are many traveling on the trail, but I haven't seen one for about a month. She picks up a piece of driftwood. You frown, thinking of your family, but then perk up a bit and introduce yourself. You ask for the girl's name. She pauses for a moment. Tatsa. It means summer in Shoshone. You smile. Pleased to meet you, Tatsa. What are you doing in the middle of the woods, traveling alone? I'm trying to reach Oregon Territory to find my remaining relatives there. I had been traveling with other family, including my older brother, Domo. Everyone save for me died, overwhelmed with disease from passing fur trappers. You swallow. Smallpox. I barely survived. Tatsa looks you in the eye. My mother and father went on ahead to Oregon Territory weeks ago. They've set up their own trading post to trade with the white men and women. And Domo and I were to join them later on. I've got to find them. She looks down and presses her sharp stick into a small hole in the ground. I've traveled farther distances before. By yourself? No, but it will not be that much different. I've been on my own for several weeks. I have not spoken with another person. The quiet has been nice, but I miss people. Is there a chance you'd want to travel together? You hope she says yes. You could travel part of the way with each other, or at least until you find your wagon train again. Why do you think I was following you? She stops on the shore. We are two young people traveling alone. It is always better to travel in groups. You sigh, relieved. I agree. Do you know the best way to get to Fort Hall from here? I know this area well. I am of the Agadika Shoshone Nation. My family and I used to live near the Salmon River in the valley where food is plentiful. I won't be stopping at Fort Hall, though. Do you still want to travel together? What if your family is waiting for you at Fort Hall? On the other hand, the prospect of continuing to travel alone is worse than anything else. You decide quickly. Yes, I'd be happy to come with you, Tatsa. She nods, looking just as relieved as you are. I'm glad to have company. It will be safer with the two of us together. Your dog will also warn against predators. Then something hits the ground only inches away from you. You kneel and stare down at a ball of ice as large as your fist. More balls of ice start to fall around you. Hail! You leap to your feet. We need to find cover. You start for the nearest pine tree. No, not that way. Tatsa runs. Follow me. I have a better idea. You're panicking. What should you do? Take cover in the trees? Turn to page 58. To follow Tatsa, turn to page 118. Well, I think you best follow your friend. Turn to page 118. You decide to follow Tatsa. Follow me. She holds her pack over her head. It's not safe by the trees. We've got to find shelter. You dodge another hailstone and follow her. Snap barks at your side. She ducks into a hole in the ground. You wiggle into the burrow beside her and pull Snap in too. Badger's nest. I found it searching for roots. Trees become top-heavy with the weight of the ice. Look. Tatsa points to a pine tree branch about to crack. Good thinking. You wipe your brow. The hail stops in an instant. You both emerge with some hesitation. Tatsa drops her pack, takes up her sharp stick, and starts poking around near the shores of the river again. What are you doing? Digging for camas roots, for stew. Tatsa examines the ground. Their flowers are bright blue, and the roots are white, no larger than your fingers. They're best found in mouse holes near driftwood. Take a sharp stick and poke around until you find one. You both dig around for roots. When you finally find some in a small rodent hole, you pluck them out proudly. They taste better when you cover them and cook them over a fire pit. Tatsa puts a root in her pocket. But roasting takes too long. We will just boil them instead. When Snap catches a squirrel, you all eat well that night. Tatsa teaches you how to start a fire with two sharp flint stones that shower sparks over dry kindling. She knows about the resin trick, too. You take turns sleeping to try to watch, feeding the fire through the night. The next morning, you make your way down into the valley. If you don't mind me asking, how'd you learn to speak English, Tatsa? White men have been crossing our land for a long time now. We had no choice but to learn. It's certain people will come this way, seeking our land. You kick a nearby pebble. I never thought about it like that. She leans over and points to your pocket. What are those? You pull out the flowers. Oh, these rock cress and some other kind of flower. They're good to eat. She takes a bunch from you and eats it. I like them. I suppose You're a useful companion after all. She smiles. Over the next few days, you climb out of the valley onto gentle hills and prairies. You continue to go northwest for what feels like a week. You think of your family as you stare at a sparkling winding river in the distance. See over there? We are close to the Bitterroot Mountains, Tatsa points. We are close to my Agadika Shoshone village. The name of our nation translates roughly to salmon eaters, given our location in the Salmon River Valley. You're excited to go to Tatsa's village and eat some home-cooked food, but you're already dreading climbing those mountains. Tatsa sees your face and smiles. Don't worry, there are footpaths that will make the ascent easier. After hours of trekking on well-worn trails, you finally descend to lower ground and then into the Salmon River Valley, where you arrive at Tatsa's Agadika Shoshone village. You stop to take in the breathtaking view of the surrounding Bitterroot Mountains. Snap darts ahead. 3 Shoshone women look up from their work digging for roots near the river's shore. With a second wind, Tatsa rushes to greet them. One woman throws her arms around Tatsa. Tatsa speaks to them quietly, gesturing with her hands, then motions to you. One of the women approaches you and rubs her cheeks against yours. You smile. It signifies friendship, Tatsa says eagerly, introducing you to her aunt Bawagap and her cousins Sanap and Aiken. After a full day of digging for nourishment, you feel accomplished and so honored to meet Tatsa's extended family. At night, surrounded by tall teepees made of willow branches and buffalo hides, everyone shares stories around the fire and eats a hearty meal of roasted salmon, elk, and choke cherry cakes. Tatsa tells you that Lewis and Clark crossed over this valley about 40 years ago with Sacagawea, a brave woman from this same Shoshone Nation. Her aunt Bawagap knew her too. The stories continue, and Tatsa translates Shoshone into English so you understand. People laugh and dance. You haven't been this happy in months. The next day, you help Tatsa, Senap, and Aiken with their daily chores, such as drawing out elk hides, digging for kamas roots, and playing with the children. It's good to be surrounded by a community of people again. By the 4th day, you wonder if you should keep moving on. You want to stay longer, but you also still have hope that you'll catch up with your family's wagon train. You desperately miss Mama and Pa. Should you stay a while longer or keep traveling? If you stay longer, turn to page 56. To keep traveling, turn to page 89. Well, this is a tough decision. It's probably safest to stay with the Indians. On the other hand, you have learned quite a bit from Tatsa, maybe even enough to make it on your own back to your family. What do you want to do? Let's keep traveling and try to find our family. Turn to page 89. As much as I'd like to stay here, we need to keep moving on. I've got to cross the mountains along the Barlow Road soon. I'm still hopeful that I'll catch up with my family there. Tatsa nods. It's been a welcome respite, but I'm anxious to rejoin my parents too. You and Tatsa pack up the supplies provided by her family, blankets for the cold weather up ahead, a map found on the trail, and lots of food like dried meat, chokeberry pies, dried salmon, and plenty of camas roots to boil. Aunt Bawagap has even gifted you with a brand new beaded buckskin tunic, leggings trimmed with a rabbit fur, and soft moccasins for the remainder of your journey. Ace, Ace! You thank her profoundly in Shoshone, Tatsa taught you, grateful that you've made such kind new friends. Well, the village can't spare any horses. You've grown so used to walking and don't mind much. You and Tatsa say goodbye to the Shoshone village and start alongside the Salmon River. It is a barren landscape with nothing in sight but sandy brown hills and cliffs covered with scrub brush. It's damp and chilly, even in the middle of the summer, and the wind whips your clothes. You both wrap your new blankets tightly around you. You and Tatsa stop to fish for fresh salmon and trout from the river to roast over the fire. As you walk, the tree-capped hills grow barren and dusty. The country flattens into a wavy, desert-like brown landscape. You look at the map and wonder if you've passed Fort Boise already. You think you might be near Three Island Crossing, but you're not sure. Then you finally see it, a winding river in the near distance. Snake River! Tatsa rushes off towards the water, Snap bounding at her heels. Come on, Slowpoke! You start after her, but as you turn to survey the landscape, something catches your eye. You squint in the sun and gasp. You can hardly believe your eyes. It's a wagon train. Your heart leaps. Is it your wagon train? You start running to meet them, not realizing Tatsa has stopped behind you. As you draw closer, your heart sinks. You scan the following wagons. None of the people are your parents. You swallow your disappointment and wave back as the wagon train captain calls a halt. Hello there, the wagon train captain calls. He dismounts the wagon and his feet hit the ground. I am William Smith. What are you doing out here alone? He eyes your clothing curiously. We are trying to reach Oregon City to find our families. I was separated from my wagon train back near South Pass, and Tatsa lost most of her family due to sickness. You've made it all this way alone? William's eyebrow arches. The two of us, yes. He puts his hand on his hip. You can't be older than 12, sir, you say. 13 later this year. But you wouldn't to have met a John and Anna Winters on the trail, would you? He shakes his head slowly. Can't say that I did. What about a loud guy named Buck Sanders? Their wagon train captain. Williams frowns. Sorry. You bite your lip, disappointed. Well, hey, says William. It's not safe for you two to be out here on your own. Any number of foul folk are taking advantage of pioneers on the trail. What say you come with us? You turn to Tatsa. That might be nice. Tatsa takes you aside. Listen, the Shoshone have always been friends to any travelers that pass through our lands, but I can't risk getting sick. I lost Domo and almost my entire family. I barely made it. You can go, but you will have to go on without me. I just don't have a good feeling about this. Traveling with a wagon train might be safer. You wouldn't have to worry about hunting food as much as you do. Maybe you'd catch up to your wagon train. But you trust Tatsa and her instincts. Should you ride along with this wagon train or keep traveling with Tatsa? To go with the wagon train, turn to page 42. To keep traveling with Tatsa, turn to page 36. I think you already know the answer. You're going to stay with your friend Tatsa. It's the right thing to do, and you trust her instincts, so let's turn to page 36. You trust Tatsa's instincts and decide to keep traveling with her. You turn to Smith's wagon train. Thank you for your offer, but we'll continue on our own. We found the trail, we have our map, and we're almost to Oregon territory now. I'm confident we'll be just fine. William rubs his beard. I don't think that's a great idea, but if we can't take you along with us, We can at least spare some food and supplies for your travels ahead. This area is practically a desert. We've had a hard time of it ourselves."
"Thank you," you nod. "That would be very helpful."
Tatsa smiles warmly. The travelers on Smith's wagon train cobble together some flour, bacon, and cornmeal for your journey. You can't carry much, but every little bit helps. The wagon train continues on. You, Tatsa, and Snap watch them disappear into the horizon. Tatsa promptly turns away toward the river nearby. You follow. With the blue mountains already in sight, you're relieved when you finally see green again after traversing through the desert. With the blue mountains already in sight, you're relieved when you finally see green again after traversing through desert-like conditions along the Snake River. It's been at least 2 weeks. Rolling hills dotted with dark pines surround you as you pass over Crawford Hill for the Cascades and Mount Hood. The climb and descent through Crawford Hill is some of the most difficult terrain you've crossed, but you know it's easier on foot without heavy wagons. Your leg muscles ache. Finally, your long descent gives way to flat plains as far as the eye can see. The map tells you the Columbia River is just north. You and Tatsa continue near the river due west until the trail winds up into rolling green hills near the Dales. After that, you head south into the pleasant open Tyke Valley and start your journey into the Cascades. Snow-capped mountains covered with thick pine trees stretch up into the sky before you. You and Tatsa slowly climb up the unstable slope. The wind picks up. You shiver, huddling in your blanket. Patches of snow begin to appear on the trail, and soon after, you find yourself trudging through the deep drifts.
"Come on, we should hunt for food before it gets dark." Tatsa pats you on the back. "The movement will get your body warm. Think of the nice juicy elk meat. Or the lean, tough elk meat."
You slog through the snow after her.
"The only thing that's lean and tough up here is me," she teases.
"Hey!" You gather up a ball of snow and hurl it at her back. She shrieks and returns the favor. Snap, who's been eating snow and chasing squirrels every moment he can, bounces between the both of you. Whoomp! A strange sound halts your fun. Thundering comes ominously closer and closer. You see it. Piles of snow sliding down the mountainside, crashing through the pines, heading right for you. It's an avalanche. Should you try to outrun the fast-moving snow or climb a nearby tree? To outrun it, turn to page 73. To climb a tree, turn to page 135. Well, judging by the speed that snow's moving down the mountain, there's no outrunning an avalanche. You decide to climb a tree as quick as you can. Turn to page 135. You and Tatsa dash to climb the nearest tree. It's a split-second decision. You know that you can't outrun an avalanche. You pick up Snap with one arm and toss him into the branch above you. Just as you swing up beside Tatsa, the snow slides inches beneath your feet. The tree shudders and shakes. You hold on for dear life and hope the trunk can withstand the enormous amount of force. Within minutes, the snow stops moving. You both reluctantly jump down onto the snow. Snap buries his nose in the fresh powder and shakes himself off. You let out a sigh. That was close. Too close. Tatsa pats the bark and, to your surprise, peels off a piece, then another piece. What are you doing? She rips off a thick strand of bark and stuffs it into her mouth.
"I'm hungry."
Tatsa holds a strip out to you. Try it. The idea of eating tough, scratchy bark
isn't appealing, but you take the strip from her. It's not bad. Not great, but still edible, and chewy like jerky. You wish you'd known this earlier. After hours of traveling down the mountain, the temperature gradually raises, and you see deep wagon wheel ruts cover the ground where the snow is melting. Looking ahead, you see a swarm of travelers. You check your map. Barlow Toll Gate. You scan the crowd for your parents. No luck. You and Tatsa take advantage of the hustle and bustle, careful to stay out of the distracted toll gate operator's sight. After about an hour of traveling, you set up camp in a nook surrounded by trees, hunt for and gather food, and then rest for the night as dark falls. In the morning, you continue on to Laurel Hill. You and Tatsa avoid the main trail and keep to the thick cover of trees. Traveling in plain sight feels more dangerous. Finally, you reach the bottom of the steep incline and you find yourselves in a warmer, pleasant valley, surrounded by thick, lush trees. Just ahead, you spot glistening water, a small pond. You're both hot and sweaty after the climb down Laurel Hill. You and Tatsa hurry toward it, eager to wash your faces. You even want to go swimming. The water is muddy and stagnant. It smells strange, too. Should you jump into this pond or find another water source? To jump into the pond, turn to page 51. To find another water source, turn to page 67. Well, you and Tatsa both know better than to be jumping in and drinking from a stagnant water source. Heck, even Snap won't go near it. So let's find another water source. Turn to page 67. You tell Tatsa that you should find another water source, and she agrees. Fish don't even drink gray water, she jokes. As you continue down the green valley, you find another creek with clear water. You both drink heartily. Tatsa fills up her water skin, and you rest under the shade of the trees. You catch trout for dinner and roast it over the fire. I think we're close now. Tatsa looks at the map. My parents have a trading station just outside Oregon City. We should reach it within the next few days. You smile. I hope so. Over the next couple of days, you make your way out of the Cascades, heading due west, into rolling foothills. Soon enough, you find yourself in a lush valley rich with flowers, trees, and meadows. You start to see farmhouses dotting the landscape. You come across a large farmhouse with a hanging sign that reads, Trading Post. Tatsa stops short, staring hard at a woman tending to the garden in front of the house. Suddenly, she lets out a cry. Pia! Pia! She rushes forward to embrace her mother tightly. They sob overjoyed. Tears spring to your eyes at an emotional reunion. A tall man comes running from the stables at the noise and stops in his tracks before rushing to hug his daughter. Apu! Tatsa hugs him. You wipe your eyes. You're so happy that your dear friend has finally found her parents. After a long time of hugs and tearful, joyful reunions, Tatsa turns to you and motions you to join them. Come, meet my parents. Tatsa pulls you into a hug with her mother and father. Pia, Apu, this is my good friend who's helped me get to you. Tatsa takes your hand. We've traveled on foot for a month or so after Domo and the rest of our family died. Her eyes drop. Pia looks at Apu, their joy turning to utter dismay. Our sweet boy. They hold each other, grieving their loss. After a moment, Tatsa's mother wipes her face and touches your shoulder gently. Thank you. We're so happy to have our daughter back with us. You must stay and rest and eat. We want to know all that's happened to you.
In the end, you stay with Tatsa's family longer than you expected.
You love her and her parents so much, you almost don't want to leave.
One morning, nearly a week after your arrival, you're helping Tatsa with chores in the house when you see Tatsa's mother talking with a family from a wagon train just outside. She's selling them goods for the final leg of their journey. Maybe they have heard something about your parents. You race outside and catch the family as they're loading up their wagons.
Excuse me, you gasp for breath. I'm sorry to bother you, but did you ever happen to meet a John and Anna Winters on the Oregon Trail? No, I'm afraid not.
The woman frowns.
Our own wagon train was decimated by cholera early on. We've barely made it to this point.
Your heart sinks as you watch them leave. Now you wonder if your parents ever made it out of the river near South Pass. You tell Tatsa your concerns, but she shakes her head.
There's so many pioneers on their way to Oregon City. What are the real chances that they would know your parents?
You chew on your lip. I suppose that's true.
And if there's nothing for you in Oregon City,
Tatsa spread her arms.
Stay here with us.
Your eyes widen.
Really?
Of course, she says matter-of-factly.
You are family now. My parents know that. If you find you don't want to continue on to Oregon City, then stay and make a life here with us.
You smile, but you're torn.
What should you do?
To stay with Tatsa's family, turn to page 103. To keep going on the Oregon Trail, turn to page 105. Well, now that you think about it, Tatsa and her family really do feel like your own family now. And you like the idea of being able to see people come by the trading post where you can hear news. This feels like home. You decide you're going to stay with Tatsa's family. Turn to page 103. You choose to stay with Tatsa's family, even though you're so close to Oregon City and possibly reuniting with your parents. You've heard nothing of your parents' wagon train since the day you got lost. Talking to various wagon trains has discouraged you and only solidified your decision. You're not sure where your parents are or if they're still alive. But the idea of getting to Oregon City and winding up alone with no support or friends doesn't seem like an appealing life to live. You know this is the best decision. In the back of your mind, you're still hoping that your parents will find you someday. You'll make it to Oregon City at some point, but for now, you're content to live at the trading post with Tatsa and her parents. Your journey to Oregon City stops here. The end.
Well, and that's going to conclude the Oregon Trail Alone in the Wild. Thanks for coming along with me. Hey, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment so I know you made it to the end of the video. And be sure to check out my other videos for more great Choose Your Own Adventure style books. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.